This is an SM Media production.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rangers Assessment, your exclusive SM Media Rangers podcast. I'm Colin Pike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host, as always. It's a pleasure, as always, to be joined by some always good to get some guests on who know Rangers, love Rangers, but this is going to be a weird one because I think we all have the same opinion, but we're going to express it different ways. Let's start with getting into the guest. First of all, you've seen him on the channel a few times doing different shows. He's got his own podcast, the Gallant Rangers podcast. It's a pleasure to welcome on Colin MacDuff.
Pleasure to be on, Scott. Always happy to come on the SM Media.
Maybe
this
not
is my
tonight,
second pod. This is my second pod of the day. Talking about yesterday, so I think I might be a wee bit more level than what I was last night. But we'll get into that.
Yep. And it's a pleasure to be joined by one of our writers, a guy who knows his stuff, has contributed well to the channel so far. It's a pleasure to welcome on Scott Young.
Aye, just hammers on, mate. I wish you had me on after the Kelly game as well.
Yeah,
you don't pick good pods for me.
I know it's kind of you're like a jinx. Maybe next time we'll wait till it's like Morton away or something and see if you're that bad a jinx.
Even at that, I'm no 100% sure.
Colin, you made a good point just before we come on there. I think if we'd done this podcast straight after the game, I think it would have just been three guys thinking they're Mark Goldbridge. Like, honestly, that's what I think we would have been. Now we've had 24 hours to kind of recap on it. You've still got the same opinions, but I think a bit more level-headed. It's we've got for the first time in a while, we've got the sun outside. It's feeling a bit warm, but unlike the sun, Rangers didn't turn up.
Aye, if we rewind it right back to 11 o'clock yesterday, I think the group chats I'm in, seeing Twitter on follow, the vast majority of fans were okay and comfortable with the team. There's always going to be a variation of your favourite players coming in, but we could see what on paper we were going to go and try and do. We had Matondo for the pace, we had Roof and Dessers where the ball should stick to and allow Campbell to hopefully link up with them. Do John Sterling at left back, maybe provides a wee bit of cover for Tav to bomb forward. And then when we get into the game, it's like backs to the wall. We're 1-0 up at the Bernabeu with 5 minutes to go, and we just allowed the other team to have the ball. And it did really catch me off guard yesterday. And I do think I've been called a happy clapper for the last 24 hours, and I do tend to be erring on the side of optimism. It's kind of my nature, but in no way am I letting Rangers off yesterday. I do think moments change games, and the fact that we had two disallowed goals, and whether that's they were meant to be disallowed or not, we will get into that. I think at that point, the fans started to feel and Rangers started to feel this wasn't our day. The things we were doing well in the first 20 minutes, because we weren't terrible for the first 20 minutes. It's easy to say in hindsight, oh no, we were shocking start to finish. We weren't terrible. But especially when that second one got chopped off, you've seen Celtic get a bounce, you've seen the stands in Ibrox deflate, and you've seen the players deflate. That they were huge moments.
Scott, Rangers got off to what we think's a dream start, but Dessers goes slightly early. After a minute, Matondo has the ball in the net, but Dessers goes too soon. And that should be a big moment. That, although the goal's disallowed, it should drive Rangers on the fact they can get in behind the defence. But the problem is, they don't really do much after that.
No, because as soon as it happened, I thought Dessers might, because I'm at the Govan. I'm in the Govan. I'm right. I wasn't right in line with Dessers. I know. Mile offside. I didn't even think Matondo might have been offside as well when he squared it. So, Rangers attackers not knowing the offside rules is pretty standard at this point.
It's something I want to touch on later because it's a proper bugbear.
Aye, but their centre halves is their main weakness. Liam Scales was on at Aberdeen last season. He'd probably be at Aberdeen right now if they didn't have a centre half crisis. Like Starfelt's away, Carter Vickers is injured. So why didn't we keep on there? Because they keep on their centre halves and their backline's a weakness, so just keep at them. But then we just dropped off and just let them all have the ball. We sat in our own half, tried to hit in the counter, which didn't work because it didn't look like we have the players to play in the counter. We don't have the ability for the front line to play in the counter. I think the whole structure of the team from minute one was off. You saw Dessers run, and then you saw the front line press, and then just left the midfield wasn't following them. So McGregor had a big gap, 20 yards of space to pick the ball up and ping the ball wherever he wanted to. So the whole structure from minute one I saw was poor. I see you guys talk about the first 20 minutes, thought we'd done all right. I didn't see it. I just thought it was two poor teams really yesterday. I don't think they were great, and we were obviously shocking, which we'll probably get into more.
Colin, if you're going to set off a team like Celtic, it's fine doing it against teams that are going to dominate the ball. And I do think that Celtic team, if they're given space, can dominate the ball. That's what they do have the players that can do it. The problem that you have if you're going to do that is you have to be strong at the back. You have to have a defence who don't give any gaps away. And when you have the ball, you have to be careful with it. I thought Rangers' ball retention yesterday was awful, particularly first half. And what I've been saying for months, and Scott, me and you have spoke about it on the channel before, Colin, we had this conversation last year. How that defence can be trusted now. I'm not going to single out anybody because I thought a couple of them had all right games. I thought Goldson was okay. I thought Sterling was okay. Tavernier, I don't think is what he was. Suter, I think, yes, he can be a good defender, but I think he's occasionally going to have bad games like this because to be honest, that's why he's at Rangers. Because if he didn't have a mistake in him, he'd probably be playing Premier League, honestly. But letting Celtic have the ball like that, you have to be careful, and Rangers weren't. And it just allowed Celtic to just dominate the ball. And how many times did they leave space? I remember a run in particular, Maeda. It was a brilliant pass from O'Reilly. Maeda gets in, Kyogo should finish it. He just goes with his foot for some reason. And that just shows just this real lack of any defensive presence that Rangers have because they don't keep it tight. They allow too much space. And if you're going to play a team off, if you're going to set off a team, you have to not do that.
Aye, yeah, you're right, and that's where, and I can almost understand what the setup was initially, what they were trying to do. While I don't agree with the theory, I thought I would have liked to see Rangers take the game to Celtic and really, really press them and force errors. I think what we tried to do is be quick in the transition. But everything that you said, that if we're going to be quick in the transition, we need to be able to pass the ball for 10 yards. We need to be able to, we can't be that sloppy. And when the other opposing team do have the ball, we need to be razor sharp with our positioning and man marking. And no, it's not even a defence for me. Nico Rashford probably had his poorest game in the Rangers jersey.
I don't think Jack was great either, to be honest.
Ryan Jack, wasn't he?
Todd I've seen
no.
I was just about to say Cantwell. I do kind of feel sorry for him because James Tavernier had a bit of a poor game as well.
The problem with Cantwell is he's working his socks off, but there's nothing going on around him that's just getting him in the game. That's the problem.
Which begs the question, where is he best? And I know a lot of people do like him further deep. I like him with a wee bit more freedom further forward. So it's more the execution of the game plan rather than the theory behind it, and that's where we got. And the question on the defence isn't got to go away until we get better defensive performances. That's as simple as it is. And it doesn't mean we need to get 4 new defenders in. We do need players to be accountable for it, and we need. I've said for so long, James Tavernier will continue to frustrate fans and not be at his best while there's no able competition. I think Dujon Sterling done okay yesterday, but Tavernier, I do think he gets a bad rep, but my biggest issue is there's not been anybody able to replace him realistically and play to our strengths since Nathan Patterson left. And it was the same for Borna Barisic. And now we've got Yilmaz in as well. My big worry is the centre halves, because that was the best two centre halves we've got. I think John Souttar, it was very, I don't know, I don't think that was, he done himself justice. I don't think we'll see too many games like that. But again, if you look at the midfield, when they can't get the ball moving, a lot of his errors came from when he was trying to step out and create something. Connor Golson just done the long ball. So, you know, I'm kind of rambling here a bit, but we do need better performances for the guys that have been here. But at the same time, we need the competition, the guys sitting on the bench, to really start charming at the door.
The problem I found before we'll talk about obviously the big one of the big decisions of the game, I think. But as I say, I'll say this a few times. I was sitting watching the game and I was turning around to the people I was watching it with and going, Rangers have changed shape 3 times in the first 30 minutes. They started the game with the front three, or an old-fashioned 4-3-3, which we've seen for Rangers. It then turns into this narrow shape, and then it goes back to the 4-3-3. Now, that's half an hour, Scott. And Beale is already trying to kind of tinker it. And that's fine if you don't feel the formation's working. But Celtic are grown into the game. Celtic are sitting stable. Celtic have got the problem with this Wood thing, and it's something I think we need to address here, is that you're asking your fullbacks to do so much. Maeda and Abada, one thing they do is hog the touchline. And there's so much space. Tavernier was not able to get forward. And it goes to this thing of, I don't want to just come on here and slate the manager, but he doesn't know what shape he's trying. He's struggling to get the shape. And we've spoken about that off air. Rangers have played 9 competitive games this season. And they've played in 9 different 9 different formations. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. Like, it's just, there's no thorough process of what I don't see with Rangers. I see a way Celtic play. It's occasionally is a 1 in midfield with 2 coming off, and if it's working defensively, it's 2 sitting, 1 further forward in midfield. You know what their front three is going to be. It's 2 wide players in Kyogo, either sitting as a poacher or coming back. We know how Celtic play. I don't want to hear this thing of, it's new signings. He only 3 new signings played yesterday, 2 outfield. 1 was only there because Barisic was injured, and Dessers was a 1-man press. So I can't understand this thing of, he still doesn't know his best formation or his best team. He's a whole summer, he's brought in all these players, and we saw at that first 30 minutes, that's all that was going through my head is, he doesn't know what his setup is here.
You hit the nail on the head when you said we know what Celtic do. Whenever I watch a Rangers team or any football team and manager under pressure, I'll see them and think, I know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I looked at us yesterday. I looked at us against Kelly. I looked at us against Morton. I looked at us against PSV. I don't know what we do Monday to Friday. I don't see any patterns of play. I don't see any structure. Don't see any press. I don't see what Beale is trying to do, and that's a big issue when it comes to a manager on any team. What's the plan? If plan A doesn't work, what's plan B? We don't know what plan A is, and I mind what plan B is. And talk about players gelling. He's not picking the same team every week to let them gel. If his front three, I think when he came in the summer, I thought, right, my front three this season is going to be Lammers, Danilo, Dessers. Play them then.
Yeah.
Play them. It cost what? 10 million quid between
apparently they were way off with that, which is something I'll get into later on, but apparently they were way off with the figures, but it's a lot of money anyway to be sitting on the bench, in my opinion.
Let's say £8-9 million on 3 players. Play them together. Let them gel. And if they play poorly, fine. Let them gel. But he's too reactionary. He said Roof's going to be a starter this season. Why'd you spend stupid money on 2 centre forwards then? If he said Roof and Lawrence, I think he said in his presser before their county game, he said that Roof and Lawrence are going to be starters this season. Why are you buying Lammers, who plays in Lawrence's position? Why are you buying Sima, who plays in Lawrence's position? Why are you buying 2 strikers who are 2 Roof position? I don't understand. His press conferences and his actions don't match up, and I don't get what he's trying to do on the pitch and off it.
Let's get into the big moment, the talking point of the game. Celtic get a lot of space on the ball, there's little in defensive areas. Celtic's do signing Lagerbielke, who comes out with the ball at his feet, dillies for a bit, Dessers kind of reacts. wins the ball, we think initially, the referee thought initially, drives forward, plays a terrific pass into Roof, who finishes it really well. The referee lets it go. We think it's 1-0 Rangers. Now, I think watching it back, I've watched it back many times, knowing I'm going to do this podcast, I don't think it's a foul because I don't see what Dessers does to cause an infringement to the Celtic player. In my opinion, there's arguments for it, arguments against it. The rules of the game say it's a foul. I think if you're given a foul for that, we're basically ruining the game. In my opinion, again, people say I'm right, people say I'm wrong. Colin, all we've heard, I obviously talk to a lot of Rangers, a lot of Celtic fans. If that's given the other way and the results the reverse, we're hearing about that forever.
Well, in answer to your latter point there, Scott, is because one side of Glasgow has a much better PR team than the other, and it has been for the last 20 odd years. But in the interest of trying to play devil's advocate, the only thing I can think that VAR has maybe called it for is Dessers' arms slightly raised. And having said that, I don't think he's raised enough to be a push. I think it's the softest sort of free kicks you'll ever see. But that's the only thing I can think that the referees looked and say, right, okay, maybe that. Because if he's not giving it for the push and he's giving it for the feet position, and I've seen so many people pull out the rule book and talk about control of the ball.
Yep.
You don't need to touch a ball to control it. It's a physical game. You can use your body to get in front of another player. You don't need to control the ball, touch a ball to be in control of it. For me, Dessers, he nips in front. He's got the advantage to go and get the ball. His foot's planted, and the boy's leg comes into the back of the boy's foot comes into the back of Dessers, and he trips himself up. For me, Dessers has the advantage. He's put himself in there legitimately. He's used his body, he's used his weight, he's used his speed. Dessers and speed didn't think it'd be something that I would be saying in this podcast, but there you go. For me, it's not a free kick, and at best it's absolute 50-50, which leads me to my biggest issue about this. What is VAR used for? Clear and obvious
Well, that's
errors.
the thing. That's what I was going to say. And I look back to how VAR has been used in Scott. I don't know if you remember last season Rangers played Dortmund at Ibrox. There's a very similar incident with Morelos, and I think it's Emre Can that leads to it's a goal that's disallowed, I'm pretty sure. And it's the same thing. Can kind of comes in front of Morelos. Morelos it's a weird kind of coming together, but the aggressor is the player on the ball, which is Can in that situation and Lagerbielke in this situation. Colin's 100% right. It was something I wanted to address, and it's something I've addressed with a few referees I've spoke to this morning, a couple who've gave their opinion publicly. If it's clear and obvious, I understand why VAR gets involved. The fact we're all having this debate and nobody can come with a concrete conclusion to say that's a foul, that isn't a foul, doesn't scream clear and obvious to me. And I always think in the VAR situation, we should give the referee every opportunity to stick to his original decision, because the referee does not, especially in a game like that, the referee does not want to be overruled by the video. And he shouldn't want to be overruled by the video. In that situation, it's not clear and obvious. Therefore, I don't think VAR can get involved. But we are hearing so many different things of, yes, it's a foul. The VAR's got to, if that's a nothing area of the pitch, if Roof hits the post, for example, goes out for whatever, we don't hear about it. Because it's a big moment, VAR gets involved. Now, it has to do a goal check, obviously, but it's not clear and obvious, so it should stand.
I don't like coming on here and blaming referees because, John, let's be completely fair, Don Robertson isn't the reason we lost that game yesterday.
No, totally agree with that.
But I do think it should be a goal, because what's Dessers actually meant to do? What else is he meant to do?
How's he meant to win the ball? Yeah.
Yeah. And you made a point about the referee doesn't want the video to intervene. I slightly disagree, because I think the referee can use VAR as an out. I
No,
think Don
yeah.
Robertson can see. I gave the goal, but VAR told me to disallow it, so it's on him, not me. He's passing the buck on to. Was it Alan Muir? Was the VAR?
Yeah, but if you're a referee, though, I'm sorry to interrupt, I'll let you back in, but if you're a referee, I know, for example, in my job, I don't want to be made to be wrong. So I'm going to try every opportunity to think, yeah, how can I stick to my original decision? So I see your point, but if I'm a referee, I'm looking at every opportunity to see how can VAR prove me wrong here, and I want to stick to my original decision. If he's totally if it's miles out, fair enough, but he's not miles out. It's one of those contentious decisions. If it's not clear and obvious, in my opinion, I'll let you back in.
So just to sort of counteract, the way I see it, if VAR isn't at that game yesterday, that ball doesn't hit the net. If there's no VAR, he instantly blows for the free kick, and that's it. I think he's let it play on so that VAR can make the decision for him.
I see the point that you're trying to make.
Yeah, I do. I know. I totally see it
because we see it time and time again where, like, the refs, they know the heat they'll get up here for whatever reason, and we know we're not competent. They do allow it to. They do allow VAR to make the decision, but again, I don't know where. I didn't really think about it until you said there. Was that one of the occasions yesterday?
Colin, just before half time, I'm looking at them thinking 0-0's probably fair. I don't think both sides have been very good, but I don't think it's been. I think it's been inseparable. Just as that, it's a loose header. O'Reilly wins a really good header. Kyogo's left in acres of space, runs on. It's a terrific goal. Now, my conclusion from that was Celtic's main striker, who's got a terrific record now in Rangers Celtic games. Let's not beat around the bush. If that's a Rangers player, he takes 3 touches and gives the goalkeeper a time to get out. Kyogo's more clinical, scores a goal. Celtic take the lead. Now that's the difference.
It is, and that's, as you said, time and time again. Not just Kyogo, but Celtic have been clinical in these games. No, this year, last year, year before, since Rangers came back up, that is something that Rangers have struggled to address in every season bar one, taking their chances in these games. And we knew that was going to be the danger. If you set up like that, if you don't set up to create as many chances, if you're going to rely on errors or unforced mistakes to create chances, because we know for every 6 chances we create, Rangers only take one of them. Celtic, I actually thought we were. I don't know. Aye, that was the first half with Connor Golston cleared off the line, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So it was coming. It was coming. That's the point I was trying to make. Celtic had started to make a couple of really decent chances. And back to the point you made in the beginning, you need to cut out the silly mistakes, especially when the other team's on the ascendancy. And I thought Celtic were starting to get a bit of confidence. So I might be a wee bit harsh here, but I don't think many people will call me in this. But it's such a weak header for Connor Golston. And that's not something you usually label at Connor Golston. Usually it's very Marvin Andrews-esque, and he will just clear it with his head into Rose Ed, especially if it's a Rangers corner. He probably heads it too hard, but such a terrible clearance with a header. John Suter, I think he has to be a wee bit quicker to recognise that and step up. He's playing Kyogo on side, and it's a fine margins. You can't make these small silly mistakes when you have such a clinical striker. But again, the Rangers shouldn't have been shocked that was going to happen, because they were chapping at the door.
They were chapping at the door, but I'm also going to say, Scott, what I've said earlier. If you're looking to sit off a team, you have to be alert at every opportunity. Rangers were just giving away so much space, and it's a poor header from Goldson, but playing him on side like that is criminal in my opinion, because you can't be shocked if it goes. Now it's a terrific finish. Let's not beat around the bush. It's a lovely goal, lovely goal. Nobody in the Rangers side can do that, but to play him on and give him that opportunity, to me, is bad. And it just sums up this. I don't understand how Michael Beale, and I'm not saying that John Souttar and Connor Goldson aren't good enough to start this. What I'm saying is, though, these are mistakes that were happening last season. I go back to that ridiculous goal that Jota scored for the header in the semi-final. They will always be able to score because Rangers just give Celtic every opportunity to score. And we saw it yesterday. There was 4 or 5 times where if Celtic were more clinical, Kyogo would have probably had 2 or 3. But he gets his chance. He takes it well. And it was coming because you make mistakes, you get punished at any level.
The 2 words I use when it comes to Rangers backline, I have used for the last 2, 3, 4 years, apart from that 55 season. There's no defensive awareness whatsoever. Souttar doesn't realise he's 3 yards behind the back line. It was weird because where I was sitting, everyone around me thought, oh no, it's offside, it'll be fine. And then my kick-off...
I think Kyogo thought it was offside as well, actually.
Aye. And then my kick-off was taken, everyone thought, oh, it's been given. But, there's no awareness. Goldson just heading it back into no man's land for no reason. When he had a bit of time to take the ball, and no composure, no awareness. Souttar behind everyone else. Goldson heads it back into the Miller Park for no reason. And I would say it probably was coming because how many chances did we have in the first half? Joe Hart didn't make a save.
No.
From what I meant, I think Joe Hart made his first save in 85th minute.
Yeah.
From where I was pretty sure it wasn't far after that.
Nah, I think you're right. It's half time though, and I didn't expect there to be any changes, but I think obviously the 2 games at Ibrox last season against Celtic, Rangers came out the traps pretty well in the second half. I think they scored straight away with the Kent, and then in the 3-0 game, I think they scored not long after that as well. So there has been a reaction, but there's just nothing. There's just no one thing that frustrates the life out of me about this Rangers team. One thing later on, obviously staying onside is a problem that is just a major problem that's not been addressed, but they do a lot of things right. You can see there's wee link-ups that I thought Cantwell and Dessers were linking up quite well, but when you're asking them to do the final part, Matondo, a perfect example yesterday, was making some terrific runs, but when he was asked to just do the final bit, there was just nothing. There was just no, it was rash, it was quick, there was no thought behind it. And it says to me that a team who didn't want to get beat, but also didn't believe in themselves that they could get back into this game. And that is a massive concern, Colin.
Our strikers need to be saddened and shown like what a straight line is. We really do. But our midfielders need to practice one-touch football at training on the five-a-side park or whatever, because I don't want to say more often than not, but I think it's 50-50. Half of the offsides are because the striker goes too early. The other half is because the striker sees the passes on, they'll hold their run off. The midfielder will maybe take another 2, 3, 4 touches, spark up a fag, read the paper. The striker started running and then we'll release it. It's infuriating. It's a safe ball, but it goes back to that belief. I mean, you don't get to playing for Rangers if you're a bad footballer. But for whatever reason it is, they don't have the belief in the big moments, in the big games. It's still that underdog mentality. I actually find part of some of our best football came against PSV in the home tie when we drew 2 each, and we were ultimately playing against a better side. But I think because we weren't really, in the hearts of hearts, we weren't really expecting a result. Now, I don't know if this is just something ingrained in us over the last 7 years as a club, because that's not the first time you spoke about this. We've tended to do better as an underdog every year, bar one. And I hate admitting it, it really sticks in my throat, but we do need to address this, and I don't know what it is. Is it the players that have been there historically? Is it just, I don't know, is it something we've got as a club? Is Michael Beale part of the problem? I don't quite know, but whatever it is, I don't understand why we can't instill belief.
The second loudest reaction of the day was when the substitutions were made. Now, Scott, I'm not going to get into him and say Kamara roofed his best game in a Rangers jersey. I don't think anyone will. But I think it was more a case of he's had the ball in the net. It's a gamble starting Kamara Roof because he's not up to match fitness yet. But He showed enough last week. We know he can show up in these big games. He's got experience against Celtic. Why take him off? That was my first opinion. I understood taking Matondo off because I don't think he was doing very much in the game, and I thought bringing on Danilo and Lammers made sense. But why not take off a Ryan Jack or a Raskin who's not contributing much to the game? There isn't a shape. So why? What was the process there? What was he trying to do? Why are you keeping two sitters on when you're chasing the game? It just baffles me. I didn't understand it. I don't think Michael Beale can say, "Oh, well, we're doing it to change the shape." There is no shape. So keep your strikers on. Put Raskin, Cantwell, Lammers and three in the midfield, and then go for it. Play if you're going to play this narrow shape, you're 1-0 down. Go for it. Why are you taking off a striker?
I've got an issue with Tondo that I'll bring up in a second. I think needs to be addressed, but no one's really said it. Bring up in a second. But Roof, my problem wasn't bringing off Roof because, like you said, Roof is poor. I thought he didn't press Greg Taylor enough in the first half. He just let Taylor do what he wanted. Let Taylor go inside, which we saw he was good at last season. Push him down the wing. But why not bring Dessers off? Dessers was offering less than nothing in that entire game. Why not keep Roof and Danilo up top? Two players who are good finishers. Dessers isn't a goal scorer. Never been a goal scorer. Roof is going to get you an equaliser. Roof is more likely to get an equaliser a lot more than Dessers is. So keep Roof on. And if we're just putting balls in the box, Roof loves a header. He scored a header against Celtic a couple of years ago. Great header. So I say just keep Roof in. Keep Roof and Dessers. I didn't even think about taking off Raskin, if I'm completely honest. But I would have done that as well. But yeah, I don't know why didn't he take off Dessers instead of Roof.
I'm desperate to list Matondo point.
Why is Matondo starting? Matondo's starting because he's doing well off the bench. Why not keep him coming off the bench?
The only thing I can see is, and it's something that again goes back to what on earth was he thinking over the summer. He's starting Matondo because he's going to sit off and explode in the counter. That's fine. But if you really, in the summer, I was saying Rabbi Matondo's your man for that job against Celtic.
No, it's my point isn't about Matondo. I like Matondo. He's done well, but he's done well coming off the bench. So why not keep him coming off the bench?
That's fair enough.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. Something's working. Matondo coming off the bench is working. Came off the bench against Livy and that found form. Came off the bench against PSV, scored. So keep him coming off the bench. Come off the bench with Ross County last week. Done well. So keep him coming off the bench. Start Danilo and Dessers or Roof and Danilo or whoever.
That's something I hadn't thought about, but I get it.
If it's, I know people say play your way into the starting 11, whatever. But if he's playing well coming off the bench, keep him coming off the bench because that's where he's doing his best. Sima came on and he was what Sima does. Don't think he added anything. They didn't really take anything away from what was there. But yeah, keep Matondo coming off the bench because starting a player who's doing well off the bench and he doesn't do well starting, I don't get it.
Can I just come in and Dessers for like a proper unpopular opinion? I think it was the right call to keep him on.
No, so that.
And I'm going to lose a lot of staunch points here, but see the boos when Gamal Roof went off, man. I can't get behind that at all. And I know people say, "Oh, we're booing Beale or whatever,"
but are they booing Beale or are they booing the fact that there isn't there doesn't seem to be a thought process there? Like that's what I thought when I was like, at 65 minutes, you're bringing on Danilo and Lammers, you're chasing the game. Why are you taking off your one guy who's put the ball in the net, arguably legitimately? And it's such a good goal. That's the thing. Nobody will talk about it. The way Roof finishes that is top class. Why are you taking that off now? If it comes out at the end of the game and says, "Oh, we're only giving Roof 65 minutes," again to Scott's point, if you're needing a goal and you think, "Oh, he can only play 65 minutes," bring him on as a sub. He's an impact player. You're needing a goal. I would rather Kamar Roof than a lot of the guys in that bench. So why? It's the same with Yilmaz. If Yilmaz is in the bench and comes on, why is he not starting? Do you know what I mean? It's that thing.
I know.
I just don't.
It's inconsistent. It's inconsistent, but it's it's a gamble you take. Do you try and get Ruffo and get a goal early, or do you leave him for when you're hopefully not having to chase a goal? So I do get it, but it felt as if the boos were towards Dessers, and I don't know. I can only speak for my section of the ground, and Cyril Dessers was getting an absolute stinking. But I'm thinking to myself, right, he is like many other Rangers players. He's nowhere near up to scratch, but he was involved in both chopped off goals yesterday. He was getting so many flick-ons, and no Rangers player was either quick enough or intelligent enough to go into it. And I think he was so isolated. And I agree with you, Scott, that the changes we should have made was actually getting a bit more dynamism into the midfield, and whether that's maybe bringing on Cifuentes for Jack or whatever.
Big point, Cifuentes. Sorry to interrupt. I keep interrupting, but I want to make that
No, you're
point.
fine.
Cifuentes, Michael Beale's words were he's going to bring something different to this team, and we all said that. That is the sort of game that you need a player like Cifuentes. Celtic, I thought O'Reilly was magnificent yesterday. Now I'm not comparing O'Reilly and Cifuentes, but Matt O'Reilly brings something different to that Celtic midfield that they haven't had before. They used to play with Beaton and Brown in that midfield and just sit and stroll it. Cifuentes could have been your box to box, your anchor in that midfield, allowed Raskin to sit a bit deeper and dictate the play. Cifuentes, to me, that is another one. I know
he
he
would
had a
have
bad
added
game.
the energy that Rangers severely lacked.
He was bad in Wednesday night. Let's not beat around the bush, but you're playing him in right wing. Play him in his actual position. We've seen what he can do already. Why is he not involved?
You mentioned he's playing in right wing, and that sums up Beale for me. Too many players are playing out of position. Cantwell's number 10. Let's stick him left centre mid and have him covering the fullback.
Yep.
That's not what Todd Cantwell is. Kimmer Roof's a 20 goal. I think a fully fit Kimmer Roof's a 20 goal season striker. Stuck him right wing. What's he doing? I don't get. And Drew's Sterling. He's a right back. Stick him left back when he's the most right-footed left back I've ever seen in my life.
The problem is that the problem I find is though, and I'm going to bring you both in this. I think every signing we see what they can offer. I think we see that Dessers he is good at holding the ball up. He's a good passer. I think in times he gets himself in really good positions. He's terrible at staying onside, but he does bring something different. Danilo, I think, has got a great first touch. He's great movement. I think he's a good finisher. Lammers, we know he's got technical ability. Sima brings pace. The problem is they all have shown something, but together, it's not working. And it's not. You have to bring players in for a system. You can't just go and spend it. You can't. I know he said it's way off the mark, but all reports says it's about £10 million for Danilo and Dessers. You can't have them sitting on the bench. You can't have Danilo sitting on the bench for a game like that. You have to play. If you've brought these two guys in to be a difference maker in forward lines, you have to play them in these big games. These are the big games that Michael Beale will be judged on. And so far, his record in them is appalling. And it's because of things like this. Just not going for it, not taking the risks, playing it safe, playing Kamara, Lundstrom and Tillman in a cup final when he should have played Raskin and Cantwell. It's the same today, same on Sunday. Why is he not going for what he signed these players? So he must see something in them. But there's no shape. I don't see what he's trying to do. And that's the problem for me, Scott. All these players, we know what they bring, but they're not showing it together. They're not getting enough time to gel together. So it leads to the question, what on earth has he done over the summer?
There's no consistency in the lineup. I said it. Don't know if I said it on or off. I said it off pod. Don't know if I said it on pod. But he's not letting. I think the way I looked at it, I think he's saying Danilo and Dessers as a Morelos replacement. Because I don't think he looked at it and think, right, I'm going to replace Morelos in two players. I think I'm not going to replace Morelos in one player. Sorry, I'll replace his physicality with Dessers and his goal scoring with Danilo. Because Danilo had a good record and Dessers obviously a physical presence, but he wasn't a goal scorer. Then he signed him as a goal scorer. But he's not playing them together. He's playing Roof. He's playing Sima. He's playing Matondo. He's playing Lammers. Just have your front three and let them gel. Because he keeps talking about, oh, I need to get the players to gel. He's not letting them gel because he's not having a consistent team.
Colin, there are a few chances to get something out of the game, but again, they're snappy. Lammers, I know that we've seen the photos of the miss, and it's not as bad as it looks in the photo.
No, see the speed he's going at. Honestly, I don't know.
But it's that decision making because it's a brilliant pass from Raskin. you try and beat the goalkeeper. You don't round it in that situation. You try and put it across the goalkeeper. Same with Danilo. Danilo, there's a couple of chances. I think I'm maybe going to slate Danilo here, but he's rash with a few. Do you know what I mean? He takes the touch, does the hard bit, and then it's a weak finish. And it's that sort of thing of the first half. I know it's silly to say, and I remember saying it last season watching the 2-2 game. Rangers are going in behind at half time, and I have no confidence that they're going to get anything out of the game.
And that's the thing with belief, because we don't have that as a team. When you get into these areas, you overthink it, much like how Michael Beale's done that. I think he's overthought it, and when we're looking for rationale or whatever, I think this is because he's overthinking it and he's trying to counteract the opponent rather than play to our strengths. But for the players, when we're getting in these decisions, we're trying to chase it, so we're being rash, and that's what Lammers has done. There's actually one that I really had my head in my hands, and it's not really on any of the replays. I don't know if you remember, but Ryan Jack gets a shot at the edge of the box and he shoots with his left foot.
Yeah,
Blocked, goes to the corner. Yilmaz is screaming for it. He's in such a good position. No one anywhere near him. And at that point, Yilmaz it's fair play to either shoot or just put it into that corridor of uncertainty, as the pundits like to call it. But it's that decision making, and once you start chasing the game, and again back to having 2 goals chopped off, once that goes, and again rightly or wrongly, even if they're legitimately chopped off, you start to doubt, is this going to be our day? And you've seen that doubt the more and more the game went on.
Scott, a lot's been made about Celtic's defence. Now, like Scales, for example, he did well. He did well enough, but that's not when you've got these players who are just snapping at everything. They're not making things happen. They're not clinical enough. As you said, Joe Hart didn't make a save to 85 minutes. It's things like that. It's, yes, Celtic will get all the credit for defensively, but Rangers just aren't threatening it. Like, there's no, as I say at half time, I didn't feel Rangers would get back into the game, and it's just because we're seeing this over and over again. Rangers just don't have that killer instinct.
No, we've not had a killer instinct for years. We didn't even the season we won the league. Kemar Roof was our top goal scorer on like 13 goals or something like that. So even when the league didn't have a killer instinct, defence won us the league. Like, we've not had a 20 goal a season striker, 20 goal Premiership season striker since Kenny Miller. Jelavic.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Was the last Premiership striker that got us 20 goals? I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's Jelavic.
You're probably right. For half a season.
11 years ago, 12 years ago. Whatever. I thought Danilo was going to be that, but he's not been playing, so I can't even see if he's going to be that. I think Roof is that, but he can't stay fit, so there's no point in Roof being good if he's only going to play 6 games a season.
I think you hit on a really interesting point there, because you're mentioning 2 players who I agree could be that, but there's question marks. Danilo isn't starting. Roof's not fit. Dessers, I don't think he can be that. I think Dessers, Lammers, Danilo, they could all be terrific players for Rangers, but you don't know until you try it. Now, the problem is, Colin, that this is a big, big thing now. Michael Beale has lost 7 games as Rangers manager, and they're the 7 biggest games he's had. Now, people will say, Aberdeen away last season wasn't a big game. I disagree, because if you remember, I'm pretty sure Celtic drew that weekend against Motherwell. Now, I always say, and I've said it in the podcast for years, the target for Rangers and Celtic every weekend is to win that weekend, better their opposition results, better Rangers. Celtic need to beat better Rangers results. Whether Celtic score 4, Rangers need to go and score 5 the next day or the next game, whatever it is. That is a perfect example. When Rangers had the chance to close the gap against Aberdeen, they lost 2-0. Rangers had the chance on the opening day to get a bit of positivity, go to Rugby Park and go off to a good start. Failed. PSV, Roof caved in. 3 Old Firm games last season, silly mistakes cost them. Yesterday's another example. Chance to go above Celtic in the league, chance to get a real positive start, get into the international break in a high, and you're 4 points behind after 4 games. Now, I do see why people are saying, it's too early to sack the manager and things like that, and I think it's very difficult for him to win them back. But you get judged on big games. Walter Smith, the greatest manager Rangers had. What's the one thing we remember? He won big games. Gerrard, as much as he got the time, he won the league. He had that credit in the bank. Gio, I don't think Gio's domestic record was good or anything to write home about. He won big games. He won in Dortmund, beat Leipzig, got to the final, won the Scottish Cup. Michael Beale doesn't have that credit in the bank. Now, there's big games at Rangers. You're judged on that occasion. Yesterday, 50,000 fans in there, not one of them a Celtic fan. Those are the games you need to win to. That suit he's wearing's big, and if you don't win those games, you don't last in that suit much longer.
You're right, and it's all about the context, isn't it? Because a Rangers manager is judged on how many shiny things to hold at the end of the season, and sometimes you win the league with 80 points, sometimes you'll get 90 odd points and not win the league. All you need is one more point in Celtic, and that's just what it is. And what I think I mentioned off air that I got a bit of heat on Twitter yesterday because I'm one of the too early to sack him brigade, and if I can get a wee bit of context as well. So I think for me, last season we were all very much appreciative of the riot of a squad that he took over. The squad was 2 years outdated. It was up against a terrific Celtic side. They could have done better, absolutely. There's hurdles that he didn't get over. There's no getting away for that, and that's the big games against Celtic, but didn't win a trophy. But we were very appreciative of the task at hand. And I think the majority of the fan base were saying that we need to give him time with his new squad. So I find that's where it comes down to for me. Is 4 league games enough time with a new squad? For me, it's not. But we're going into the first international break. We're in the Europa League. We're favourites for the League Cup, and we're 4 points behind Celtic. So back to the point I made, we just need one more point in Celtic at the end of this season, but only 4 points behind them now. You mentioned another point there about time. So since we came up, there's only been one manager who got time. And as far as I'm concerned, and any long-term listeners of Gallant will know, I'm a Steven Gerrard fanboy. Absolutely adore the guy, always have. As far as I'm concerned, he only kept his job because we went into a pandemic. That's the only reason he got more time.
And he had the name.
And he had the name. So, absolutely. Did he deserve that any more than what Giovanni Van Bronckhorst did? And when you look at Robert and Caixinha, we can all have hazard a very strong guess it wasn't going to work out long term. But none of these guys got a full season in the top flight. How long can we go on for just getting rid of managers a few months into their first full season? For me, I think we need to go a wee bit longer. So having said that, we can't go as long as what we've done with Gio because we'd seen that he couldn't get a tune out of the players. I think there's been snippets that we're not admitting where Rangers have played well in snippets of games so far this year. No anywhere near enough, but I think we need to give it another month, maybe another 3 weeks post the international break, and see if Beale can get a rise out of these players.
Scott, could be too late by then.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. That's kind of where I totally see Colin's angle, and I don't agree sacking a manager on the 4th of September. Don't agree with that. Think it's way too early. The problem is, though, you're 4 games into a season, you're 4 points behind Celtic, you're in the Europa League, and Chris Boyd, as much as I think at times he can come across as a bit moronic on the telly, he made a brilliant point yesterday. You're now 20 million again behind Celtic because you're not in the Champions League. People that are saying, the Europa League would have been better because of domestic, I was one of them. But the problem with it is, though, you're looking at it now, Celtic get 20 million more in the bank than you. Celtic can go and, do you know what I mean? Celtic can go and improve where Rangers on the back foot. So it's that thing as well. Scott, I suppose the answer is this. If Rangers win the League Cup, let's just say, if Rangers win the League Cup, it's less than 4 points going into the New Year derby. Rangers go through into Europa League knockout rounds. Is that enough to then go into the next Old Firm? And if it loses again, does it change anything?
I would say, in your hypothetical, he's won a trophy. And any Rangers manager wins any trophy, I think should be given time because a trophy is a trophy. whether it's League Cup, Scottish Cup, League, whatever. Trophy's a
Let's
trophy.
say he doesn't win the League Cup, though. Let's say...
If he doesn't, sack him. As
Well-
soon as we get put out of that League Cup, sack him. Because he's got a free run at it. We're not getting beat by Andrew Celtic this time. We either get put by Livy. I don't know the rest of the team. Livy, Kelly, Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen, I think it is.
I think
Give
you're
or
right,
take. Aye. So we're getting beat by one of them. A team, one of those teams who we spent a lot of money on, have a lot better players in, and if we get put out, it's a manager battle. And Michael Beale lost the manager battle against the Dep McInnes or Martindale or Barry Robson or whoever. So if he wins it, I think his job should ride on a. I would personally, up to me, I'd get rid of him now.
But
So I can see where
my
it's
point
going.
with the hypothetical thing is, though, yes, he's won a cup, but he then goes and doesn't beat Celtic. So we're back to square one. So that's my point. Yes, he's won a League Cup, fair enough. Should win the League Cup. I think it's a failure if he doesn't win the League Cup. But we saw yesterday, this Rangers team, Michael Beale can't beat Celtic.
Can I just say, I think, Jesus Christ, man, honestly, that I'm going to get the pitchforks at my door with this. But we are putting so much emotion in the Old Firm games, and
But they're
And-
the big games, though. That's
but they're 3 points. They're 3 points. Would this reaction have happened if we lost at Easter Road yesterday? I don't
Yes.
think it does.
yes, because
We
you're
were
4
4
points.
points
Yes,
by-
because you're
We
4
were in
points behind
4
after
points
4
behind
games.
Celtic.
I think the argument I'm hearing is it's no the points, it's the big games. It's just another 3 points. So to your point there, Scott, like if we go all the way unbeaten up until the Celtic game in whatever the beginning of January, we've won X amount of points, and then the next 3 points we lose or at Celtic. I mean, there's no guarantee that Celtic are going to win every game up until they play us again. So I think we need to put it in context.
Is that going to be the weakest Celtic will be all season? Because I think it will. I don't think you'll
Aye.
come against a Celtic team as weak as that.
No, but I don't think we're
Sorry,
going to
Colin,
hit the
just go
heights
back
for
to your-
last year. Sorry, Scott, and go.
Sorry, just go back to your point. It's just 3 points. It's not really my point. See if we had battered Celtic yesterday, Joe Hart's prime Buffon in goal, and we get beat 1-0 getting the counter. That's, I wouldn't say fine, but it's more acceptable what we got yesterday. Like you brought up Steven Gerrard, and brought Steven Gerrard get more time. Steven Gerrard lost a cup final because Fraser Foster put in one of the best goalkeeping performances I've ever seen. And he got given time because of the performance in that game and the fact that we were
It went to Parkhead.
a
and won
top
after that.
keeper away from lifting that trophy. But yesterday, Joe Hart made a save to it, 85th minute, I said. 5 minutes to go, Joe Hart makes a save, and it wasn't even a good save, I think. Danilo had it straight
Had
at
it
him.
straight at him. Yeah.
So it's less about you're saying just 3 points. It's more than that. It's the fact that we didn't play well.
The
We
manner
did
of it.
deserve to win the game. It's the manner of the defeat.
My worry is that we could see last season. I'm sure it was 9 points when Gio got sacked.
Aye.
You could have sacked him 4 weeks before. Now I'm never one to say, "Oh, manager should lose his job," especially this early. But he won't get sacked. The simple reason he won't get sacked though is because they put so much trust in him to build his own team. And then we're hearing today, "Oh, we need to look at a director of football." If you're thinking that now, why on earth do you not think that in the summer? Things like that, I just don't know. And I don't know. My worry with Michael Beale is, Colin, I watched the press conference yesterday, and I've watched a few press conferences, and I don't want to sound like I'm disrespecting Michael Beale because he knows a lot more about football than I ever will. He comes across as very arrogant in his post-match interviews, particularly when he loses, because he tries to come out and say, "Oh, this is the way I tried it and it didn't work, but it wasn't my fault." Yesterday, I didn't know what he was trying. He came out and said something. Somebody made a good point. I'm pretty sure it was somebody at Heart and Hand. I can't remember if it was. They came out and asked him about why the signings weren't playing, and his answer was, all the signings I make can't play in the one game. But that's what we're looking for yet. Like Raskin and Cantwell came in January. They went straight into the team. Big money signings like Danilo, Dessers, Lammers. Those are the games that they're judged on. So for your statement to be, "Oh, I can't play them all in the one game," find signings, find a shape where you can bring in signings for one game, for that game like
Absolutely.
that.
And
Don't try and
this,
turn it around in the fan media and they'll get their stick, and I disagree with it because I think they're emotional at the time, and they're maybe looking at it, maybe not in the way like a press guy would, but what they're trying to do is they're emotional and because they're fans and they're asking questions and they've been made to look like idiots because the manager, my opinion, the manager is arrogant and he's in no position to be arrogant because you cannot be arrogant after that because you can't defend what he put out yesterday.
aye, that did annoy me, and I said this last year when we had a few snippets for the soundbite. We were laughing it up because it was somebody new and refreshing, whereas Gio was a library and Michael Beale's press conferences were a carnival. I did say that time, Ash trying to get him in bother because he loves to talk. He does. He loves to get. He's a football man. He loves to talk about football, and he says too much at times as well. I think you do need an element of arrogance to be the Rangers manager, but you need to know when to turn it off.
You need to back it up.
Yes, you need to back it up, and you need to know when to turn it on, turn it off. And he absolutely knew what the sentiment behind Dave Edgar's question was, and it was, why are we not seeing the impact of the new signings rather than why we're not seeing them all starting? That was the sentiment behind it, but he didn't answer that, and that was frustrating because that's where I hope he hones in his arrogance. We've seen it with Gerrard in his first couple of seasons where he was getting criticism for not getting results and players not playing well, but he stuck with it because that was his decision, and he's going to, his confirmation bias, he's going to see it out until it works. I hope Michael Beale's a bit cleverer than that because he's got so much less time. I think we all probably all come to different angles on where they should go. I know this board, I don't see them doing it personally. I think he's got at least another month, so he has to be humble and actually start changing things now.
The thing with Michael Beale is that this is his dream job, and I think you can argue, was it a lazy appointment? I don't know. I think I still don't think it's too early to judge, but my worry is, Scott, to kind of close up. This is we're no further forward than we were a year ago, and you can actually make the point that we're maybe backwards because we're out the Champions League. At least Gio got into the Champions League, and 4 days later went out and lost to Celtic. Do you know what I mean? Like things like that.
Aye. This time last year, we should get battered in the Netherlands and get beat by Celtic. What's just happened? We should get battered in the Netherlands and then we get beat by Celtic.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same way it is this point last year. And talk about arrogant press conferences. The captain doesn't help with that either. And the captain's sitting in his presser saying he's happy with his own form. How can you be happy with your own form when you cost us 3 goals? Well, partial cost us 3 goals in PSV.
My only thing to that is he looking at it the way I look at it now with Tavernier is that defensively he's never been great, but I think now we're seeing just that any kind of sort of defensive qualities he had has been done by his pace, but he'll come up with a massive goal in big occasions. We saw it last week at Dingwall. We saw it against PSV. He came up with a big goal. Is he looking at it from that way? Because he can't look at it and say I'm doing fine defensively, because right now, if it wasn't for these goals, I would give Sterling a go right back.
But read the room. We saw that
100%.
Full time yesterday. It was the most toxic I've ever seen it at Ibrox. Players done the lap of honour and got booed off the park. I stayed to the end of the Liverpool game last season, and it wasn't as bad as that. And we get battered 7-1. And we only got beat 1-0 yesterday. And that is the worst I've heard it at Ibrox.
But what is that aimed at the manager though, or is that aimed at the sort of kind of conclusion I'm coming down on? Is that how long have Rangers been back in the league? 7 years, and are they any closer to matching Celtic? I know they've won a league, but my closing argument is, and I know this will make me probably the most hated man in the Rangers support, but is that now based on Celtic absolutely crumbled that season, or did Rangers win the league? Because it's no coincidence.
We only conceded about 13 goals.
Yeah,
you
I know.
Say we conceded 13 goals because Celtic were crap.
But what wasn't in the stands? The pressure. I'm maybe way off, but that is just something that's creeping up in the back of my head.
I understand that, Scott, because I think, see, as football fans, when your club's not doing well, it's the most human thing in the world to look for the one thing, or look for the one thing to fix. But the league table doesn't tell lies for me. I think there's been so many issues we've had at Rangers, for the board to the manager to the players on the pitch to different managers, and just wrong decisions. And the finances don't help either, because we've always been an uphill battle, but because we've no won the leagues, it continues to get more and more uphill. I think, but all of this bundles into the reality that Celtic are edging towards dominating another decade. Until we start edging that back, we become more and more impatient, and that's where I think this comes from. We are more impatient with Beale than we were with Gio. We were more impatient with Gio than we were with Gerrard. We will continue to become more and more impatient. Whether it's right, wrong, and different, for football fans, that's how we're going to be. We're going to be more and more impatient until we start winning leagues. That's just the harsh reality of it. Rangers need to address that, whether they like it or not. That's just where it is.
My issue with the impatience is, I think with Gio and Beale it's very similar. I said it earlier on. I don't see what Beale's trying to do. Let's compare to Celtic this time last year, 2 years ago, sorry, when Ange first came in. Ange lost his first league away games.
But you knew his style.
Get beat by us, get beat by Livy. But you could see what the plan was.
Yep.
You could see what he's trying to do.
I go with Gerrard.
I can't for the life of me see what Beale's trying to do. If I see a plan and it's not working, I'll say, right, stick with it because it'll work. But I don't see what the plan is to stick with. I just see Beale's panicking as much as the fans are. Because like you said, we're already 4 points behind. We've already lost an Old Firm game. He's starting to panic. That's probably why he's changing the team a lot. Because he's starting to panic. Oh, no, I need to get this. When you play Football Manager, just switch players a bit until something works. But you need players to get relationships and gel. And he's not doing that. It was up to me, Michael Beale, and it's his birthday today. His birthday card was
Happy birthday, Michael Beale.
His card was P45, and then I get someone saying Kevin Muscat's name get bandied about. I wouldn't mind that. Knutson at Bodo, he got a style. I wouldn't mind seeing a good style for what I saw against. I think they beat Roma 6-1 a couple of years ago. They beat Celtic. He's got a style. I'd like to see that implemented because it looks quite fun to watch. But someone, Graham Potter, would be perfect. Probably couldn't afford him.
No chance.
Graham Potter would be a dream. Someone who's got a style and a style that we can see and we can stick with. I don't see Beale's style. He's been here nearly a year.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably sit all day and talk about this and assess it, but we're going to wrap it up. It's been a pleasure to get through it. I know it's not been the ideal result to look back on, but we've assessed it really well. We've looked back in the game and we've noticed certain things that I didn't notice at the time. But let's look at it after the international break. Let's kind of give it, because they won't sack him. Let's be honest, they won't sack him now. They can't sack him now. There's too much invested in him. Let's give it a month, as Colin says. If there's a defeat in there, if he's out of the League Cup, I don't see how it goes any further forward. But we're going to wrap it up there. To my guest, Colin, thank you very much indeed, and always a pleasure to have the man of the Gallant few on.
Thanks very much for having me, gents. And look on the right side, Rangers won't ruin your weekend this weekend.
They certainly won't. And to Scott Young, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure, mate.
Cheers for having us on, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for tuned in. Follow us on social media, and we'll be back soon with a new episode of the Rangers Assessment. Thank you very much.